Thank you, Tanner. Great job. I think I'm going to start off first with a question. My only question to you is that with all this new knowledge that you have gained and studied over the past year, your senior year, what are you now called to do?
Yeah, so throughout my research and studying this topic and all the different sides of it, part of it was for me to be able to share it effectively with you all so that you can then go and spread this knowledge, but also to get involved in the community and spread awareness of this, because a lot of people don't know exactly how severe this is occurring, especially in Hawaii. Like, we know that globally our Earth is dying and that we have to take steps to recover, but I think especially here in Hawaii, there's a special urgency that we need to have in addressing this issue. Yeah.
Judges, does anybody have a question for Tana?
So you talked a lot about the Hawaiian practices that were so important in preserving culture. Yes. Then what practices do you see that either are being implemented today by particular organizations or that we should really start to focus on that could help us gain understanding? Yeah,
I think most importantly, just restoring the sense of sanctity and sacredness that the land has, because I feel like, especially now as the ethnic kind of scale of Hawaii has changed a lot recently, I feel like that has gotten lost a lot, especially now that the land isn't necessarily something that's sacred or doesn't have like a sanctity to it, and that it's something that we should just get what we can from and then leave. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a couple of remarks about the H3 thing. If you weren't even alive at that time.
Yeah.
Actually, I was working at the state hospital at that time, which was right below the H3 while it was being built. And if my memory, which is going, is correct, I believe the elevated freeway is due because of the Hawaiian sacred lands. There were a lot of heiaus and everything in the valley and everything like that. And there was a big controversy insofar as whether they're going to put that on the ground or if they're going to raise it. And I believe, if, like again, my memory holds me right, that they went elevated to preserve these lands. And part of that, in my opinion, is the government is actually trying to do something insofar as saving our rainforests. And Governor Ige is part of it. I think it has started way back when, insofar as saving, like you said, the Ululaau rainforest. The Ululaau rainforest is pretty much intact right now because government holding these big businesses, which I work for, in keeping them kind of like out of building up on there, because being in the tourist industry, I see a lot of tourists. I send a lot of people out to hike our beautiful rainforests and everything, and I also hear that a lot of them devastated, which I'm totally against. But that's part of our economy. That's part of all of us living here. And if things keep continuing going the way they are, I think a lot of this is fueled by global warming. Because if you've noticed the news and stuff like that, the global warming, Waikiki is going to be underwater pretty soon.
So I think that's definitely very important. So I'm not against getting rid of tourism completely, because I do see that it's a very integral part of our economy, and to take it out would be super damaging. But I think that we need to have regulations and measures in place that when you do destroy land to construct hotels, resorts, or whatever it may be, that you're somehow taking reparative steps in that process, and that it should be something that's required because people aren't doing it.
Okay.
Excellent job, Tanner. So proud of you.
I think we all want tourism and the development to slow down and be a lot more reasonable. Have you found in any of your research which of the legislator are more pro economy, or
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't come across that in my research. The only thing I found legislator-wise in my topic is that there isn't really laws in place that address like deforestation and overharvesting and destruction of the land, specifically for these big travel companies. Yeah.
When you quoted Governor Ige in your paper,
Yes.
did it seem or did it appear like he is a little bit more pro-environment with this support of the Legacy Land Conservation Program?
Yeah. So from the articles that I read from Governor Ige, a lot of it was just stating the facts, and it was a lot of reports. But I do think he, at least from the articles that I read, he did seem to kind of favor like the tourism like coming in and spending their money and providing all this income to the economy. Yeah.
Okay, we have a bunch of questions from the audience. Thank you very much. Ready, Tanner?
Sure.
All right. So the first one, we agree that deforestation is bad. How do we balance clearing invasive species yet preserving our forests?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it all ties back to that idea of restoring the sanctity of the land and like that nature has. Because in a lot of these construction projects, a lot of the reasons why it's occurring at such a massive scale is because they don't have that sacredness and that respect for the land that a lot of people here do. They're just like, oh, it's land, like we'll just build here, and then if you need to get something, you can go somewhere else and get it. But Hawaii especially, we have, like I said in my speech, 90% of our native species are endemic to Hawaii. So when we have deforestation and clearing of our landscapes on such a massive scale, it causes all these problems in our environment that we probably won't see the effects of, at least a lot of them, until later.
All right, your next question is, how do you decide what is enough development and enough tourism to sustain both the economy and the Aina?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I think for that, when like too much of a good thing isn't good for you, it's bad. Too much of a good thing is bad. And I think the state that we're in now is definitely too much. I think we have too much development going on, and there's not a lot of restrictions or regulations around development here. As far as what that healthy balance is, I think that when you start building for what you can get out of it, and for when you're simply looking at it for money and not looking at it in terms of how this is going to affect like the environment and other things, I think when you're looking at it purely in like financial motives, I think that's when it gets to a point where it's too much. I think doing it responsibly and doing it well, I don't think doing it that way you're ever going to go wrong.
All right, can you name some current examples of deforestation in Hawaii?
Yes, so I don't know if, I'm sure a lot of you know, but at Sherwoods they are clearing a bunch of that land to build stuff there. So that's one that I know of specifically.
With it being so expensive to live in Hawaii already, how do you think we can have environmental regulation that decreases tourism while not forcing more people to have to leave because of the costs?
Wow, you guys have good questions. Okay. So
Y'all are awesome.
great, wonderful. I think, again, doing it in a way that is responsible and environmentally conscious, I think doing it that way is the best way to go. And a lot of times, and it's not saying that we're not going to stop developing, but it's saying that we're going to do it in a way that's environmentally responsible and doesn't cause any further damage to the environment like we've been causing for the last how many years. So we'll still have that income and the economy will still be fine, and it'll still stay where it's at, but the environment will no longer be being abused and cleared.
Do you think more regulation on trail usage or restrictions like at Hanauma Bay would be implemented to slow the taxing on the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great first step to take on hikes, like regulating hikes and things like that. Also, the types of products we use and the type of fuel and all that all goes into taking care of our land and our home. So I think definitely like regulating hikes and things like that, and the type of products that we use and all that ties in perfectly with this.
Do you have examples of nonprofit organizations or private companies that have taken steps to preserve our forests?
Yeah, so I mentioned in my paper, there are a lot at Lion Arboretum specifically that do work on this issue, preserving like endangered species and the endemic species to Hawaii, as well as preserving our forests.
Do you think that there's a realistic balance between deforestation and growth, and is it achievable?
I do think it's realistic. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take a lot of people from the right places and the right backgrounds working together to come up with a plan to solve this, but I do think that it's achievable and reasonable.
Since tourism is a keystone to Hawaii's economy, wouldn't it be an incentive for landowners, such as the state, to reforest and promote diversified reforested land for ecotourism while earning additional income through carbon credits? I'll repeat it if you want me to.
That would be great. Don't know quite what that said.
Okay, let's see if I can chunk it a little better. Since tourism is a keystone to Hawaii's economy, wouldn't it be an incentive for landowners, such as the state, to reforest and promote diversify reforested land for ecotourism while earning additional income through carbon credits?
Yes. If what I'm understanding from the question is correct, yes, I do think that we should capitalize on our natural environments and the beauty and the diversity of our natural habitats and gain any income we can through that. I definitely think that that's a great idea, and doing it responsibly and doing it well.
Okay, and what can schools do to increase awareness and consciousness among Hawaii's children?
Yeah, so I think the first step, which Trinity has started implementing in the younger grades, is incorporating Hawaiian curriculum into the normal classes that we have here, because Hawaii, we have such a special background. Since we're the only state that was its own country before joining the US, we have such a special, and because of our location in the Pacific, we have such a specific background and culture, and by not teaching about it in our schools does a disservice to not only the children, but a community at large.
Do you believe, or would a solution similar to the limiting of visitors at the Galapagos Islands work in Hawaii, in your opinion?
So I'm not too sure what they do in the Galapagos, but I do know, just from my own experience working, being in different communities around the island, that a lot of states will actually go to their homeless populations and they'll give them one-way tickets here, so that all their homeless are coming and living here. So that's not necessarily on tourism, but that is having to do with overcrowding. So a lot of other states, to make their numbers look good, will go to their homeless and they'll say, here, we have free tickets to Hawaii. Go be homeless on this nice sand beaches and all that. And a lot of them end up either in Chinatown or Honolulu, in that area. And so that does have a factor in overcrowding, which does contribute to deforestation, because we're having to build all these new homes for people who aren't from here.
America has a strong ethic that says the land belongs to everyone. Do you think this is opposed to the ancient system of kapu, that is, the land is not for everyone?
I think, I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but I think America, we settlers have such a interesting background and culture. First, we saw it first with the Native Americans when they came to America, and they took from the Native Hawaiians and they killed off a lot of their people and took their land and kind of destroyed it. And then they came here and they did a similar thing. So yeah, I do think that the two go directly in conflict, and I do think that saying that the land isn't for everyone and like that we should take care of it because it's not ours is super important.
Okay, let's give Tanner a hand. That's all.